Nothing But the Words, episode number 56. Promote this book before you write the next book.
Welcome to Nothing But the Words, the podcast that gives you everything you need to know to write a phenomenal book. Now here's your host, your author coach, Candace L. Davis.
Hey there, and welcome to Nothing But the Words. I'm your author coach, Candace L. Davis. I hope your week and your writing are both going really, really well. If you have written your first book already, then you probably know it can be a pretty intense process. You spend weeks or months, or for some authors, even years. That's not always a bad thing, not always necessary, but not always bad, immersed in the world of your book. Now, once you've written your manuscript, you're not done. You read it over and over. You read it to make your revisions. You read it after your beta readers have given you notes, should you choose to work with beta readers. You read it before it goes to your editor to make sure it's the strongest work you can possibly send to editing. You read over it again after it comes back from the editor so you can make the necessary changes. Honestly, if you are not tired of reading your own writing, of reading your own book before you publish it, you probably have more work to do. I have never published anything that I was not tired of reading by the time we got to the publishing process. And I would say most of my clients, based on what they've told me, are in the same boat, trying to make it as good as it can be, right? So it takes multiple passes to get it there. But there's an interesting phenomenon I've noticed with some of my clients and even sometimes with myself. Somewhere along the line, usually just about when they're finishing the first draft of their manuscript, sometimes sooner, sometimes later, they start talking about writing their next book. They don't just have a general idea of what the next book will be somewhere in the future. They're ready to get started writing the next book. In fact, they want to renew for coaching. They want to sign up again so they can jump right into the next book as soon as this one is done. It's perfectly natural. For a lot of us, writing a book ignites our creative process. Maybe you haven't had the opportunity to exercise those creative muscles as much in the past, and once you do, they're ready to run. They're ready to go. You start to see new book ideas everywhere. You get in the habit of processing events through the lens of an author. Everything becomes, I could write a book about that. You make more connections and you develop more philosophies, and you really begin to understand the value of sharing those things with your readers. And ultimately, you realize you have more to say than you could possibly say in one book. Here's the thing, though. Your first book, or the book you're currently writing, today's book, hasn't gotten started in the world yet. Writing your book makes you better at telling your story. It helps you glean new insights from your experiences and revise or refine your strategies and philosophies in ways that are hard to do without putting them on paper. Writing a great book transforms you, and there's so much value in that, tremendous value. But unless you're writing just for yourself, much of your book's value comes from landing in the hands of the right readers. Just like the process of writing your book is transformative for you, reading it can and often should be transformative for your readers. But someone has to tell readers about your book before they can have a chance to experience that transformation. And the best person to tell readers about your book is you. Even if you hire a marketing team, even if you have a social media manager, even if you have a great PR rep, the person who has to show up on a podcast, radio show, or TV show to talk about your book is you, the author. The one who needs to step on stage and share about your book is you, the author. The person who has to write and submit articles related to your book, you guessed it, it's you and only you, the author. Now, don't get me wrong. You can delegate, you can get help, you can pay for assistance in publicizing, promoting, and marketing your book. But in order to get your book into the hands of the readers that you sat down and put words on the page for, you need to commit to telling the world about this book. Commit to promoting it for a period of time, many months, maybe a couple of years. While your promotion in most cases will start before you launch your book, it can't end after you hit number one in some subcategory on Amazon, throw a launch party, and go live on IG a few times. Those of you who are parents of adult children, as I am, know that you can't just raise them to 18, kick them out, and say, have a nice life. They still need your support and your guidance and your cheerleading and your nurturing after they've been released to the world. The same goes for your book. You've raised it from an idea to a published book, and you've sent it out into the world. But it doesn't stop needing you just because you've released it. If you have time to continue to promote your today book, the book you have in hand today, and get started writing your tomorrow book, that next idea you have, that's fantastic. That's awesome. I say go for it. However, most authors do not have that luxury. Most of my clients have full-time jobs, businesses to run, or both. Many of them have families that require their time and attention, from small children to elderly parents and anything in between. When my clients have their next book idea before they've even finished this book, I encourage them to hold on to that idea. Don't just throw it away. It has value. Create a document or get a notebook where you can drop or record all of your ideas, your thoughts, your inspirations for that book. Keep all the notes for tomorrow's book in one place, but stay focused on today's book and what it's meant to do in the world. Give it the time and attention it deserves. Maximize your book's potential by promoting it long after the confetti has been swept up from your launch party. Your book is more than an event. It's an asset for your business, yes, of course, but it's also a representation of you and your knowledge and your expertise. Your book is an extension of you, gone off into the world where it can connect with people who you will probably never have the opportunity to cross paths with. It's the solution to someone else's problem or tool they can use to achieve their goals, even if that goal is just to escape everyday life for a few hours. Entertainment is not an unworthy goal. So I don't want to discourage you from writing the next book. I want to encourage you to write as many books as you deem reasonable and you have a desire to write. But I also want to encourage you to really give enough love and attention to each book as you release it into the world. Notice that big publishing houses rarely release more than one book per year from an author, and sometimes they will stretch it out even longer, not because the author can't write a book in the ensuing time, but because they want time to really make the most of that book. Of course, as a publisher, their goal is to make the most money from that book, right? But there's nothing wrong with that. That money is a measurement of the value the book is presenting to the world, a measurement of the value the book is giving to the world. Trust me, many of the authors that are traditionally published can and do write more than one book in a year. But they give each book time to find its audience and get some momentum before they release the next one. Yes, there are some exceptions to this rule, but those exceptions are generally for the kinds of authors, most of whom are self-published, who publish series of books. Many of them put out multiple books every year. And I'll be honest with you, I have found some of those to be amazing, and I have found some of them to be subpar in terms of quality because they're cranking them out way too fast. Most of those authors also, by the way, write full time. If that's your situation and you can write full time and you have 4 books you want to put out for this year, and you have a marketing strategy that will allow you to promote all 4 books, perhaps one builds upon the next, then definitely go for it. But that's not what most authors who have other jobs, careers, businesses are able to do. Use your time wisely. If you create a specific marketing strategy for your book, and you should, you can always outsource some of the work. But at the end of the day, no one can represent your book the way you can. Invest the time up front so today's book can get momentum with the readers who are waiting for it. Plan to market and promote your book full out for at least 6 months after it's launched, maybe even longer, depending on how much momentum it can get to kind of speed out there and promote itself. In the process, you will build an audience who wants to hear more from you. So when you get to the next book and the one after that, they'll be waiting for it. Tomorrow's book, the one you feel inspired to write right away because you're tired of the one you're currently writing, will still be there for you, I promise. That's all for this week, my friends. If you've enjoyed this episode, follow me on Instagram at Candace L. Davis for more writing tips and inspiration. Thanks for listening to Nothing But the Words. I'm your author coach, Candace L. Davis, and I'll see you next time.